The research ship Harmonic Dawn shook violently as another engine part exploded. Dr. Kess. Bellani put her six-fingered hands on the metal wall and felt her ship dying. Her crew of alien scientists worked desperately at broken computers. There, blue faces lit up by red warning lights that flashed everywhere. "I sent another help signal, Doctor," said Trill, the communications officer. Her voice was shaking. "That's 47 messages now on all radio channels." Kess nodded but felt hopeless. Outside the big windows, two angry stars threw deadly radiation storms across space. Their ship was floating helplessly toward a radiation cloud that would kill them all in 36 hours. It was terrible irony. They had come here to study how stars are born, but now they would die because of those same stars. "Did anyone answer our calls for help?" Kess asked, even though she could see the sad answer on Trill's face. "The Galactic Council got our message. They're thinking about it. Kess closed her big dark eyes. She could imagine the council meeting rooms right now. Hundreds of different alien species would be talking about rescue rules, counting how much it would cost, and deciding if 37 Vellani scientists were worth saving. This was how smart civilizations worked. They were careful. They measured everything. They made logical choices. Suddenly, their radio made noise. Trill's webbed fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It's from the Zephyrian space fleet." Three-dimensional image appeared in the air. Admiral Kextel looked like he was made of crystal, and his face showed what might be sadness. "Dr. Vellani, our fleet has looked at your problem. We feel sorry for you, but our computers say there's a 97% chance that any rescue ship would be destroyed. We cannot send help." The message ended before Kess could say anything back. She wasn't surprised. The Zephyrians were famous for cold thinking and making decisions based only on math. One by one, more messages came from across the galaxy. Hegemony talked about resource management. The Trade Federation worried about insurance costs. Even her own people's rescue services sadly said no, explaining that the mission was too dangerous according to their safety rules. As the ship's lights grew dimmer to save power, Kess called her crew together in the main science room. These were young researchers who had joined the mission dreaming of great discoveries. Now they faced death in the cold emptiness of space. She looked at each face, scientists who had spent their lives trying to learn new things. Now about to become just another warning story in galactic safety books, the crew gathered around her, some floating in the low gravity, others holding onto walls and chairs. Dr. Yex, the oldest researcher, spoke first. "Doctor, what do we do now?" Kess looked around at her team. There was Nex, barely out of university, who had been so excited to study star formation. There was Pex, the equipment specialist who could fix anything but couldn't fix their dying engines. There was engineer Noack, whose brilliant mind had designed half their research tools, but couldn't design a way out of this death trap. "We keep trying," she said, though her voice was weak. "We keep sending signals. Maybe someone will answer." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. The galaxy's great civilizations had already made their choice. 37 lives weren't worth the risk of losing an expensive rescue ship. It was mathematics, pure and simple. The needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few. Trill suddenly looked up from her station. "Doctor, I'm picking up some strange readings from the radiation storm. It's getting worse, faster than we thought." Through the windows they could see the cosmic storm growing stronger. Waves of deadly energy rolled through space like an ocean of death. The beautiful colors would have been amazing to watch if they weren't so terrifying. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Yex. Trill checked her instruments twice before answering. "Maybe 20 hours now. The storm is moving faster." The room became very quiet. 20 hours instead of 36. Even less time for a miracle that wasn't coming. "Begin recording your final messages," Kess said quietly. Her voice sounded strange in the dying ship. "Tell your families you love them. Tell them what our research discovered. Make sure our work wasn't for nothing." Around her, the crew began making their last recordings. Some cried. Some tried to be brave. All of them faced the same cold truth. They were alone in the universe, and no one was coming to save them. "And continue monitoring all frequencies," Kess added, though she didn't know why. Perhaps, ... But she couldn't finish the sentence. Hope was something they couldn't afford anymore. Outside, the radiation storm grew closer, and inside 37. Scientists prepared to become another number in the galaxy's careful calculations of acceptable loss. The harmonic dawn drifted silently toward death, and the civilized galaxy had already forgotten them. 16 hours had passed, and the harmonic dawn was still floating toward the deadly radiation storm. The crew had almost given up hope when suddenly their radio exploded with noise. A message was coming through, but it was different from anything they had heard before. The signal was rough and hard to understand. Their computer translators worked slowly to figure out the strange language. It sounded harsh and choppy with short, sharp sounds. When the translation finally worked, the message was surprisingly simple. "We hear you. Come in." Trill's pale hands shook as she tried to find where the signal came from. "Doctor, this message. It's coming from the Sol system." Everyone on the bridge gasped at the same time. Every crew member knew about Sol. The third planet there had warning signs written in 17 different languages. Earth. A. Class 12, Deathworld. Home to creatures called humans who had somehow managed to live on a planet that constantly tried to kill them with earthquakes, storms, wild animals, diseases, and 1,000 other deadly things. "Humans? Are you sure?" Kess asked, even though the computer readings were clear. The radio crackled again. This time, the voice was easier to understand, speaking in broken but clear galactic standard. "Villani, ship Harmonic Dawn. This is Captain Kim Jun of the human cargo ship Resilient Hope. We got your help signal and are changing direction. To reach you, we will arrive in 18 hours. Dr. Yex, the oldest scientist on the team, stepped forward with his computer tablet. "Doctor, our files say that human ships are very basic. Their technology is hundreds of years behind Council standards. They use chemical fuel and simple metal hulls. How could they possibly survive what the powerful Zephyrian fleet said was impossible?" Before Kess could answer, another message came through. "Warning, we have a small crew and not many supplies, but nobody gets left behind." "Say again, nobody gets left behind," Captain Kim finished. The bridge became completely quiet. All the galaxy's complicated rules and procedures. Those words, "nobody gets left behind," were nowhere to be found in any official book. Smart alien species always calculated acceptable losses, compared risks with rewards, and made logical decisions based on facts and probability. But here was a species that apparently didn't understand math the same way. Engineer looked at his sensor readings. "Doctor, I can see a human ship on our long-distance scanners. It's very small. Their ship weighs maybe 1/10 of what ours does, and they're flying straight into the storm system. Are they trying to kill themselves?" whispered communications officer. Trill. Dr. Kess stared at the tiny dot on their sensors that represented the approaching human ship. Everything she knew about humans suggested they were barely civilized. They were a species that had spent most of their history fighting each other when their own planet wasn't trying to kill them. They were famous throughout the galaxy as the species crazy enough to explore black holes on purpose, build colonies on planets with poisonous air, and take jobs that other species called suicide missions. The crew gathered around the sensor display. Watching the small human ship getting closer, Dr. Yex pulled up more information on his tablet. According to our records, humans have been spacefaring for less than 200 years. Their fastest ships can barely reach half-light speed. Their weapons are primitive projectile throwers. Their medicine is based on crude chemistry rather than quantum healing. "Then why are they coming?" asked young researcher Nex. "What do they hope to accomplish?" Dr. Kess studied the data streaming across their screens. The human ship was indeed tiny compared to their research vessel. It looked fragile and simple, like something built in a backyard workshop rather than a proper shipyard. Its energy readings were weak. Its hull appeared to be made of basic metal alloy, and its engines used what looked like controlled explosions for propulsion. "Look at their flight path," Engineer Nowak said, pointing to his display. "They're not trying to avoid the radiation storm. They're flying right through it." "That's impossible," Dr. Yex protested. "The radiation levels would kill any biological life form within minutes. Even our advanced shielding couldn't protect us in there. The human ship kept coming, getting bigger on their sensors with each passing hour. As it approached, they could see more details. The hull was indeed made of simple metal, patched and repatched in many places. Strange equipment stuck out at odd angles. The whole thing looked like it had been through battles and disasters, but somehow kept flying. "No," Dr. Kess said finally, answering Trill's earlier question. "I don't think they're suicidal. I think there's something else entirely." As the human ship grew larger on their sensors, Kess realized they were about to learn what that something else was. These creatures from the death world were coming to save them, flying through radiation that would kill any sane being. In a ship that looked like it was held together with determination and spare parts, for the first time in hours, Dr. Kess felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The human ship, resilient hope, came out of the deadly starstorm like something from a nightmare. While Villani's ships were smooth and beautiful, built for speed and looks, the human ship looked like someone had put it together from junk parts without ever seeing a real spaceship design. Metal plates were stuck on at strange angles. Radio. Equipment poked out from random spots, and the whole ship was covered in burn marks that showed it had been through dangerous situations that no smart captain would ever try. Harmonic Dawn. "This is Captain Kim Jun. We're starting to come close. To you, fair warning, this is going to be bumpy." Through the observation windows, Dr. Kess watched the human ship move through gravity fields that should have torn it apart. Solar flares erupted around them, radiation levels shooting up to deadly amounts. Yet the crude ship kept coming. Its pilot seemed to know exactly where the starstorm would strike next, turning and diving through space with an understanding that made no sense according to the laws of spaceflight. "How are they doing that?" Engineer Noek whispered, staring at his instruments. "Their ship doesn't have gravity protection or radiation shields worth mentioning. Those humans should be dead 10 times over by now." The answer came when Captain Kim's voice crackled through their radio again. "Lee, bring us around the left side. Watch for that solar flare building up at 2 o'clock. Park, get ready with the docking clamps. We'll have maybe 30 seconds. Before the next radiation wave hits, humans weren't using computers or advanced math. They were flying by gut feeling, reading the storm like ancient sailors reading wind and waves, Dr. Kess realized. These beings had grown up on a world where quick decisions meant the difference between living and dying, where nature's anger was a daily challenge rather than something impossible to overcome. Getting ready to dock came another voice, younger, female. "Fair warning, Villani friends. Our artificial gravity has been acting up since we flew through the last asteroid field, so you might want to hold on to something." What happened next would have broken every safety rule in the Galactic Councils. Thick manual. The human ship slammed into position with a metal screech that made the entire Harmonic Dawn shake. Warning alarms blared as the crude docking clamps bit into their hull with enough force to leave permanent dents. "Docking successful?" Captain Kim announced cheerfully. "Opening airlocks now. Oh, and Dr. Kess, might want to keep your crew calm. We humans look a bit different up close." The airlock cycled open with a hiss. Captain Kim Jun stepped through. He was shorter than most Villani, built solid and compact, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to notice everything at once. His skin was marked with small scars, proof of a lifetime on a world that didn't protect its people. Behind him came his crew, Engineer Lee Min, with oil-stained hands and a toolkit that looked like it could rebuild a starship from scrap metal. Pilot Park Soyoung, whose steady gaze suggested she had flown through worse storms than this. And Medical Officer Cho Seung, wearing a smile that somehow made the approaching radiation death seem less scary. "Dr. Kess," Captain Kim said, holding out his hand in the human way of greeting. "Sorry about the rough docking. We're here to get you out." Up close, Kess could see the captain's hands were scarred from hard work. His uniform was patched and repatched many times, and his equipment was clearly kept working through cleverness rather than replacement parts. These weren't the smooth, efficient representatives of an advanced civilization. They were survivors. "Captain," she began, "our situation is, the radiation levels alone, ... double quotes, will kill us." "Yes." Kim's expression didn't change. "Probably. but probably isn't definitely, and we have work to do. Lee, start setting up the emergency life support transfer. Park, figure out our time window. For evacuation, I want every Villani off this ship before the next major flare. Cho, check their crew for radiation exposure. As the humans spread out through the dying ship, working with calm efficiency in conditions that would have sent any civilized species into panic, Dr. Kess began to understand something that the Galactic Council had missed in all their careful word. Calculations engineer Li Min worked his way through the asterisk. Harmonic Dawn asterisk's failing systems with an understanding that impressed even Dr. Kess. Where Villani technology needed precise adjustment and gentle handling, Li simply went around failing. Parts with jury-rigged solutions that had no business working but somehow did. Your power connection is broken, he explained to Engineer Noak, his hands already deep in a control panel that sparked dangerously. But if we reroute through the backup life support grid and use the emergency batteries as a buffer, sparks flew as he connected parts that weren't designed to work together. There, that should give us another hour. The humans moved through their ship like they belonged there, fixing impossible problems with simple solutions. Staying calm in the face of certain death. Dr. Kess watched them work and realized something amazing. Sometimes the best help didn't come from the most advanced civilizations. Sometimes it came from those who had never learned the word impossible. The evacuation became like a carefully controlled disaster run by people who seemed to do their best work when everything was falling apart. Engineer Li Min worked his way through the Harmonic Dawn's broken systems with a natural understanding that amazed even Dr. Kess, where Villani technology needed careful adjustment and gentle touch. Li simply went around broken parts with makeshift solutions that shouldn't work, but somehow did. Your power connection is destroyed, he explained to Engineer Noak, his hands already deep inside a control panel that shot dangerous sparks with every movement. But if we redirect power through the backup life support system and use the emergency batteries as a safety buffer, sparks flew everywhere as he connected parts that were never meant to work together. There, that should give us another hour. Medical Officer Cho Sung moved through the Villani crew with gentle speed, checking each researcher for radiation poisoning. Her equipment was basic compared to advanced galactic medical technology, but the way she treated patients was completely different, warm, comforting, truly caring about each person, rather than treating them like numbers to be processed. You're going to be fine, she told young research assistant Pex, who was shaking with fear. Humans have been dealing with radiation exposure for centuries. Trust me, we know what we're doing. Her words weren't just empty comfort. Cho had grown up on a world where radiation was a daily danger from the sun, from the ground, from space itself. Earth had taught humans to live with radiation the way other species lived with weather. Meanwhile, Pilot Park So-young worked with communications. Officer trilled to download the expedition's research data. This star formation study, Park said, looking at the files. This could change everything we know about how stars are born. No way we're leaving this behind. But the data storage needs special protection, Trill protested. The quantum patterns are extremely fragile. Park smiled and pulled out what looked like a simple storage device. Human engineering, Villani science. Sometimes the easy solution is the right one. As they worked, another massive solar flare erupted from the twin stars, sending radiation levels through the roof. The resilient Hope CH Hull groaned under the attack, and several of Captain Kim's makeshift systems sparked and died. Sir Lee called out, "We've got a hole in the hull and Section C radiation is pouring in." Without hesitation, Captain Kim grabbed a welding torch and a sheet of metal plating. "Keep working. Nobody stops until everyone is on board." Dr. Kess watched in amazement as the human captain sealed the breach while standing in a radiation field that should have killed him instantly. His movements were steady and practiced, as if welding metal plates in deadly radiation was just another normal day at work. "Captain," she called out, "you need to get to safety." "Safety is relative," Kim replied, not stopping his work. "Besides, we've got 37 people counting on us. It's not relative at all." The rescue became a race against time and physics. The humans worked with efficiency that seemed impossible. They didn't follow safety protocols because they didn't have any. They just did whatever worked. When the life support failed, Lee rebuilt it with spare parts and wire. When the hull cracked, Park sealed it with emergency foam. When the artificial gravity gave out, Cho helped the Villani crew adapt to floating in zero gravity. "How do you stay so calm?" Dr. Yex asked. Captain Kim, as another explosion shook the ship. "Panic kills," Kim replied simply. "Fear makes you stupid. We can't afford either right now." When the harmonic dawn finally began breaking apart, the humans refused to leave anyone behind. Park So-young made 3 separate trips back to the dying ship, first for the research data, then for the crew's personal belongings, and finally for Dr. Kess's collection of rare plant specimens that represented decades of fieldwork. "You came back for plants?" Dr. Kess asked in disbelief as Park handed her the carefully preserved samples. "You've spent your life collecting them," Park replied simply. "That makes them important." The final evacuation was like something from a disaster movie. The harmonic dawn was coming apart around them, metal screaming as hull plates separated and systems exploded. Radiation levels were climbing to lethal amounts. The stellar storm was getting worse by the minute, but the humans never stopped working. They carried unconscious Villani researchers through collapsing corridors. They sealed breaches with their bare hands. They kept the life support running through sheer determination and creative thinking. As the last Villani researcher was helped aboard the resilient Hope, the harmonic dawn came apart in a spectacular explosion of metal and plasma. The human ship limped away from the expanding cloud of debris, overcrowded and running on backup systems. But with every soul accounted for, in the cramped cargo hold, 37 Villani researchers huddled together while 5 humans worked. Miracles with failing life support systems. Dr. Kess found herself studying her rescuers with new eyes. They weren't the primitive barbarians the galaxy believed them to be. They were something far more remarkable, a species that had never learned to give up, even now, as their overloaded ship struggled through space with failing systems and too many passengers. The humans worked calmly to keep everyone alive. They shared their food, their water, their air, without complaint or calculation. Nobody gets left behind. It wasn't just words to them, it was who they were. Dr. Kess watched Captain Kim Jun float through the cramped ship corridors, checking on each rescued scientist with the same care he showed his own crew. The human ship, resilient Hope, was falling apart, but somehow it kept flying. Every day brought new problems, broken systems, failing equipment, shortages of everything. Yet the humans never stopped working, never stopped trying. "The air recycler is making strange noises again," Dr. Yex whispered to her. As a Villani, he was used to perfect technology that never failed. This human ship confused him. "It has been making those noises for 6 months, Engineer Lee Min said cheerfully as he floated past with a toolbox. "She just needs to be reminded who is boss." He patted the wall gently, and somehow the noise stopped. Dr. Kess had been studying human history on their computer systems. What she found made no sense. Humans lived on a dangerous world that tried to kill them constantly. Earthquakes destroyed their cities. Volcanoes buried entire regions. Ice covered their planet for thousands of years. Diseases killed millions. Wars devastated continents. Any reasonable species would have given up long ago. Most would have gone extinct, but humans did something impossible. They survived everything. When disaster struck, they helped each other. When their cities fell down, they built new ones. When they got sick, they found medicine. They fought wars. They eventually made peace and tried to do better. Captain Dr. Kess called out, "I need to ask you something." Kim stopped his work and gave her his full attention. This was another strange human trait. They actually listened. "Your planet has tried to destroy your species many times. Why did you not give up? Why did you not just stop trying?" Kim thought for a moment. "My grandmother lived through 3 major earthquakes. Lost her house twice, her business once. Every time, she started over. When I asked her why, she said giving up was not an option. Too many people needed help." "But the mathematics," Dr. Neck said from his medical bed. "The probability of success is so low. Your rescue mission had less than 3% chance of working. Maybe, Kim said, but 3% is not 0%. As long as there is some chance, we try. Dr. Kess floated over to the small window and looked out at the stars. We Villani pride ourselves on logic and efficiency. We calculate the best course of action and follow it. But you humans, you do things that make no mathematical sense, like rescuing a bunch of alien scientists from a dying research station, Kim asked with a smile. Exactly like that. You risked everything for strangers. Your ship could have been destroyed. Your crew could have died. For what? To save people you never met from a species you barely knew existed? Engineer Lee looked up from his repair work. My grandfather told me humans are like bamboo plants. When strong wind comes, bamboo bends, but does not break. Other trees are bigger, stronger, but they fall down. Bamboo survives. Your species fascinates me, Dr. Kess said. You are not the strongest in the galaxy, not the smartest, not the most advanced. But when everything goes wrong, others call you for help. Why? Kim finished checking a control panel and turned to face her. Because we show up. When someone sends a distress signal, we answer. When disaster hits, we help clean up. When things look impossible, we try anyway. Even when logic says you should not. Especially then. Logic is useful, but it has limits. Sometimes you have to do what feels right, not what seems smart. Dr. Yex was listening from his workstation. In our databases, humans are listed as a minor species. Small population, limited territory, average technology. But every emergency response team in this sector has human members. Every rescue operation calls for human ships. Why do they want you? 'Cause we do not quit, Lee said simply. Your perfect technology fails, when your careful plans fall apart, when everything goes wrong, humans keep working. We fix things with spare parts and hope, make impossible repairs with broken tools. We find ways when there should not be ways. Dr. Kess looked around the tiny ship that should not be able to fly. Patched walls, jury-rigged systems, equipment held together with determination and creativity. By all logic, they should be dead in space. Instead, they were alive and heading home. I think I began to understand, she said quietly. You do not survive because you are strong. You survive because you do not know how to give up. Kim nodded. Giving up is easy. Trying is hard. But trying is what makes us human. The ship shuddered slightly as they jumped to the next star system. Another impossible journey. Another day of keeping hope alive through pure stubbornness. Dr. Kess smiled, finally understanding why the galaxy needed humans. Not because they were perfect, but because they never stopped trying to be better.